Well, welcome to the Journey. My name is Kevin Polkey, and I am the host of the Journey. And today we have a special guest with us. Kelli Ritschel Boehle is joining us for the first time. We happened to just meet a few weeks ago, kind of an impromptu thing, and you were just dressed up a little bit different than you are right now. But we were at Pigs Bind, and you guys were doing a fundraiser. And
Yes.
we'll get into that in a little bit about what that was and what that was all about. But well, welcome to the journey, Kelly.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate that. And yeah, it was just really fortunate for me, I guess, luck of the Irish that I ran into you.
And so, Kelly, are you from you? Well, let me ask first. When you have an opportunity to have fun, I asked all my guests this the first time. When you have an opportunity to have fun, what does Kelly do for fun?
Well, that's an interesting question because we actually, I spend most of my time these days at fun events for our charity. But so those are pretty much my fun times. Otherwise, then I'm pretty low key, honestly. At home, we have two dogs, two cattle dogs, a red heeler and a blue heeler, and probably the biggest fun for me is taking them out for a walk and getting them to run around after squirrels or scare up something and make me nervous about it. So, I love to just go out on walks with my husband and the two dogs.
Okay, perfect. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you from the Rockford area? Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background and
Yeah.
where.
Born and raised here in the area. So I went to schools here in Rockford. I went to high school at Boylan High School, and then I went to college at Rockford College. Now it's been upgraded to Rockford University. I got an upgrade. I didn't even do anything. So, and I got my MBA from Rockford University as well. So never really got too far from home. This is my home, and I love it here in Rockford, Illinois.
Gotcha. And then, and with the MBA, what'd you do with your MBA?
Well, my life started, I guess I had a couple different turns, curveballs, if you will, in my life. So I went to college at Rockford College. I got my degree in mathematics, computer science, and economics. Sounds like a real nerd, doesn't it? But I actually dropped out before I finished my degree, and I got married. We owned our own business for many years, and sadly, that marriage ended up in a divorce. And so I became a single mother of three young boys. And decided that I needed to finish my degree. So my youngest son Nick, he was in kindergarten at the time. So I would take him actually to my classes with me, which was quite, thank goodness for the good instructors at Rockford University to actually allow me to do that to finish out my degree. And then there was a professor there. Her name was Professor Jefferson, Mary Jefferson, and she was amazing professor. She helped me not only finish my degree, but also set me up for my MBA. So I started a new career and not being a business owner, but went into corporate life. So I started my career at Ingersoll here in town, and then I progressed on. Spent most of my career at Carey, which is up in Beloit. So that's a food ingredient company that's global. So I was very fortunate to actually travel all over the world for Carrie. So and just still the Carey family is very close to me. So I am officially now retired.
Yeah.
Sort of. Now
Yeah.
my passion is of course the charity.
Yeah. So yeah, why don't we go ahead? Well, thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, why don't you kind of jump into a little bit? You have three boys, and why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about, the three boys, and then we'll go into your fundraiser.
Sure. So I spent, as I mentioned, I was a single mom, so I decided probably the best way for me to manage my life and have the best life for them is to move in with my mother. So my mom, she's affectionately called Grammy in our world. We lived all together really until the boys were out of school. But my youngest son Nick, while he was still in school, he was a senior in high school. He started to develop back pain. Couldn't figure it out. I mean, he could play basketball. He was a natural athlete, always busy doing something. And but he couldn't sleep at night and he couldn't ride in a car. Just chased after doctor after doctor after doctor, trying to figure out what was going on. It progressed until he couldn't even begin. He couldn't even have balance and walk anymore. So finally, I called one. Every doctor I could find, I was trying to turn over and figure out what it was. And I called the doctor and I said, "Hey, is there?" He was like, "Well, I don't see anything wrong with your son. Maybe he, maybe you should see a psychologist or something like that." And well, so I said, "I'll do that, but we do an MRI?" And he said, "Well, the MRI is not going to show anything more than the CAT scan did." And I said, "Well, just so that I know that we've turned every stone, would you just do the MRI?" So we did an MRI, and it was a snowstorm on December 19th. Everybody was snowed in, similar to today. And he called me at home and he said, "Hey, can you get out of your driveway and bring your son in? I'll open the office." And sure enough, that turned into horrible, horrible, horrible turn of events where he had a tumor wrapped around his spine.
Mm,
And that tumor ended up to be a malignant tumor called synovial sarcoma.
okay.
So on Christmas Day in 2008, they couldn't treat him here, so he was taken by ambulance to Rush. And on Christmas Day 2008, we heard the terrible news that that tumor was synovial sarcoma, a very aggressive cancer, and that his prognosis was less than 25% chance of beating cancer.
Okay.
So you can imagine just from three boys where one didn't think of it, the other two did, and just running around chasing after him, to our family just coming to a complete halt. Everything stopped at that moment, and everything began to revolve around how do we help Nick and how do we hopefully save his life.
Gotcha. And I apologize. How old was Nick at the time?
17.
17.
And that's a very important age. We didn't know it at the time, but in the middle of all of this news, of course, they were asking us to complete this paperwork for Make-A-Wish. And the businesswoman in me was like, this is, let's get on to the important. But to
Right.
Nick, it was important business. And what we didn't realize was, you see, Nick's birthday is February 4th. So they needed to get that paperwork through, and they knew that for him to get a wish, because Make-A-Wish has a hard deadline. It has a hard age limit of 18. So once you turn 18, you're not eligible for Make-A-Wish. But we didn't understand that, or it wasn't any part of our minds. They were just managing that for us. So he did qualify for Make-A-Wish. And honestly, in the midst of a tornado of just awful news and awful news and awful news, um, this was the one thing that put a smile right back on his face, which I was so happy to see. And Kevin, I think in the book of Make-A-Wish, there's a whole chapter that is about Nick's crazy wishes. He kept coming up with wishes they actually couldn't do.
Okay.
He drove those poor people crazy. He at first he wanted to be on the game show Deal or No Deal, where they open the briefcases and you win the money. Yeah,
Yep.
they can't do that. Then he decided he wanted to be a towel boy for the Chicago Bears. He was a huge, huge Bears fan. Nope, that wasn't in here. Every time the phone would ring, these poor people would be like, "Oh, what's he going to ask for next?" Every single time. And he even asked for a pet monkey. I am here to tell you that Make-A-Wish cannot give you a pet monkey. I am really happy about that.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
bet.
yeah. So
And they were probably just like, can't you do like Disney, something, you know?
like
So,
a normal person.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, okay, so Nick is 17, a couple months shy of his 18th birthday.
Right.
We find out that he's diagnosed with a cancer that is malignant and extremely aggressive. And you're a single mom living with your mom, the grandma, and your two older boys, Nick's older brothers, are they in the house, or are they off to
No,
school, or
they're
what?
off. Yeah, they're off on their own, doing their own thing by that time.
Okay,
So really at that point in time, it was my mom and Nick and I that were kind of working through this. And at the time, I had met my soon-to-be husband, Tom. So
okay,
Tom was helping. He didn't know when he met me that he would end up helping me through such a terrible, terrible time. He was a rock for me in that period of time. So yeah, so he spent time, driving Nick's girlfriend to visit him in the hospital. You see, Nick actually ended up being treated at Comer's Children's Hospital. That's in the University of Chicago. Really, oh, probably on some days it could be 2.5 hours away from this house. But if you traveled fast, you could make it there in an hour and a half. So, because of the kind of cancer he had and because of his age, the best place for him to be treated was a children's hospital, even though by that time he was, turning 18.
sure, okay,
So he also had to have a special type of radiation. And at the time, there were only 5 places in the country that could do this proton radiation. So they connected us. He had a really, really good oncologist, Dr. Skapak, and Dr. Skapak shared, I guess, treatments at Mass General for him. So we had to go all the way and live in Boston at out there for 4 months while he got treatment out there as well with the special proton radiation. So we got to stay at a place called the Hope Lodge. Nick called it the Hope Prison. Not that it was bad. It was just that it was actually very, very, very nice. And it was very gracious that we were able to stay there for free during that time. It's put out by the American Cancer Society. But to Nick being 18 years old, not being able to graduate or go to prom or all those other things, being yanked out from his friends and being, so far away, he kind of felt like it was a prison.
sure, sure. No, I think I think most people, especially 18-year-olds who are going through that experience, would probably have some feeling the same way. I can just imagine. Um,
Yeah.
and so well, so we have to go back to the Nick's wish piece. So what did I mean? He got turned down by numerous numerous things, and I imagine being on the recipient end of those requests, they probably at least gave it a shot on some of those. I mean, maybe not the monkey one, but but some of those they probably at least looked into it. But what did he end up? How did it all work out as far as the Nick's wish part of it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what he finally ended up with is he called them up and he said, I decided on this. He had gotten some bad news that his cancer had metastasized, and so in his mind, he wanted to make sure he took his wish when he was well enough to enjoy it. And so he had already gone through the first round of treatment, and then about a year later, his cancer metastasized and came back, and that's always a very bad thing.
Mhm.
So he called him up and he said, "Hey, I actually didn't know about this until years after he passed away when the Make a Wish people came to speak at one of our events and they told this story. And I didn't know. Nick never told me this. So he called up the Make a Wish people and he said, Hey, I decided I want to meet the Chicago Bears. Can I meet the Chicago Bears? And oh, yes, we can do that. He's like, Great. So they hang up the phone and they are all ready to do a meet and greet with the Chicago Bears. And he calls them back and he says, Hey, cancel that wish. Instead, I want to do something for my mom. I want to take her to Hawaii. So the Make-A-Wish people were so moved by that that they did a mini wish and got him to actually be able to meet the Chicago Bears too. So there were some connections that they had that had just happened to come up, and we were able to go to Hallis Hall. And At the time, yeah, this was the Jay Cutler days and Lovie Smith days. We were able to go down on the field and actually eat lunch with them at Hallis Hall and hang out with them for the whole afternoon. So it was for Nick, it was very special. And then and his real wish, then I guess his real wish was we ended up going to Kauai on a family vacation, which those memories are amazing for me. I think anybody who gets a wish and has those happy memories, they're pretty priceless because there's only so many of them now.
Yeah, yeah. And so at the time when you guys went to Hallis Hall and then roughly the time when you went to Kauai, that was when Nick was 19?
Yeah, he would have been 18, 19. He probably, when we went to Hawaii, he would have been 19. Yep, that would be about right. I'm trying to think back on the timelines here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And so yeah, thank you very much for sharing with the Make-A-Wish. So I'm guessing if the 18th birthday is the top end of the Make-the-Wish uh, uh, deadlines, right? So then it could be as young as a person, it could be a small child, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, I think it goes all the way down to like 2 years old. So
Okay.
so yeah, so they have that window. That is just, their guidelines. I guess everyone has to have some sort of guidelines, just like we do when you have a charity. So,
Yep.
but I just didn't realize it. I guess I just never really thought that there was a deadline.
Right, right. Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I didn't either until we're talking right now. So then maybe then tell us a little bit about so how do we get to Make-A-Wish, then we transitioned or you transitioned to Nick's Wish. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that
Well,
and then
yeah.
obviously we know Nick passed. When did that happen? And tell us a little bit of the story there.
Well, sure. Well, his cancer metastasized, so we ended up traveling all over the country trying to find clinical trials that would fit him and that might help extend his life or cure his cancer or help in some way. So we found ourselves at the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. And he was on a clinical trial there. So we were staying again at the Children's Inn. So lots of kids running around, not very many kids his age. I was working from the little room there again, trying to keep my job. And he was out running around trying to find somebody his age. And he met a young man. His name was Nate. And so Nick was telling him all about the wish and, everything, all of the wishes that he had tried to go for. And they were probably scheming about what he was going to do next. And Nate told him that he missed out on Make-A-Wish by 1 month. He was diagnosed 1 month after his 18th birthday, and he didn't get a wish. So I can still hear Nick just busting through the door at the children. Then, Mom, we got to do something. We got to do something. Nate missed out on Make-A-Wish. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, yeah, right now, Nick, we're trying to save your life. He's like, we got to do something. I'm like, well, I can't do anything right now. We're trying to save your life, Nick. And he somewhat understood that, but it still wasn't right. He needed to. It just hit him hard. He just knew that these kids like Nate needed a wish too. But sadly, that clinical trial didn't work. Fast forward about 8 months later, and we are out in Arizona at a place called TGen. They had some new treatments that might help him. And so him and I were out there. We had flown out there to talk to the docs out there. And Nick was very spiritual, and he had deep, deep, deep faith. And he knew that his time was coming near. He didn't ever share that with me, but in hindsight, I can tell what was going on. So we were out there, and the doctors asked us to spend the night. They wanted him to do a quick bronchoscopy in the morning, which is just a procedure where they just go down. It's a pretty simple procedure. They go down with the scope and check out your lungs because he was having issues breathing occasionally. So we called his oncologist and said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So we stayed overnight, and again, we were in the hotel together, and I'm working, and he said, Mom, stop, stop. Actually, what I was doing was emailing every oncologist or anybody I could get to answer me to find anything that might help. And he said, Mom, come over here. I want you to listen to a song. So he sat me down and he played for me a Dave Matthews song. And the words were, to change the world, start with one step. However small, the first step is hardest of all. And he had me listen to the entire song all the way through. And then he talked to me about Nate and how important it was for Nate and these kids to have a wish too. And he asked me one more time if I would help him get a wish. And this time I said, Nick, when this is over, I will try to do something. So he played for me some other songs, and we both went to bed. And then he was up bright and early in the morning for his bronchoscopy, which is totally not Nick. He was up before I was. And I'm like, wow. He was on his way, walking so fast to the hospital, I couldn't keep up with him. He came back and grabbed my briefcase and carried it for me because I couldn't catch him. He had an appointment, and he was on his way there. So we got in the little room, and the doc came in and said, hey, Nick, how you doing? And he said, I'm scared. Now, Nick was never scared. He went, I can't tell you how many awful, awful, awful things he had gone through to try to fight this cancer. This was a very simple 20-minute procedure. And so the doc's like, well, why are you scared, Nick? And he said, I'm afraid I'm going to go to sleep and not wake up. And he said, oh, no, no, no. This is a 20-minute procedure. We'll be back here in 20 minutes. And he said, okay. So he left, and he had to take off. He had, when I was in Ireland, Kerry is an Irish company. He asked me to buy him an Irish sterling silver cross. So he gave me the cross to wear, and I looked at it, and it was gold. I was so astonished it was gold, I took a picture of it. And I asked him, why is this gold? And, he, as they came in to take him away, he said, hey, I want to go back one more time. I want to tell my mom I love her. And I said, I love you, Nick. I'll see you in 20 minutes. And as he got into that operating room, he thanked everybody in there for what they were doing for him that day. And during that 20-minute procedure, the tumor invaded a major blood vessel, and he died in the arms of the doctors that morning. Nobody saw that coming except for Nick. He knew it was coming. He knew he had an appointment, and he wanted to make sure he got there on time. He had updated his Facebook page, and he said, I love you, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you. He wrote 3 beautiful poems. He was not a poem writer, but he wrote them from his heart. And, in that moment of shock and just disbelief, and I mean, obviously I knew he was sick, but I had no idea that this would be what would happen. I was out there alone. The wish thing was anywhere in my mind at all. I mean, that wasn't, but as time went on, in the night, I would have dreams, and he would be in the dreams, and he'd keep talking to me about this wish thing. So, so finally I got up enough courage to call his oncologist, Dr. Pinto, now at Comer's Children's Hospital. And honestly, Kevin, I thought he was going to think I was, crazy, and I'd gone off the deep end. And I finally said, Dr. Pinto, I just wanted to ask you about this. Nick wanted to, help kids who missed out on Make-A-Wish, and he's like, well, Kelli, Nick was spot on. There are no programs. We see it every day. There's no programs for these kids. If you want to try to do something, please do. And so Kevin, I barely volunteered for anything. I mean, I threw $100 in the bucket for the United Way. I didn't even know what it went to. I wasn't that person. I wasn't. Yeah. I wasn't. I was, busy. And so I got family and friends, a lot of smarter people than I was around me, to help us put on our very first fundraiser. And it's always in October. It's called Nick's Home Run. And
it's called Nick's what?
Home Run. It's actually, we usually have it at a baseball field and finish on home plate. Okay. And Nick's Home Run. And we raised enough for 5 wishes. And the very first wish we gave was to Nate, the young man he met in Bethesda, Maryland at the National Institute of Health. And that was 440 wishes ago. And that's how Nick's Wish started.
And so, well, that's an awesome story. And I have a handful of moms parents, but specifically moms that I have gotten to meet over the years. And then in my world, the mental health world, unfortunately, those were some moms who have lost their sons to suicide. But grief is grief, right? And a traumatic death. Um, Regardless of how it happens, it still is traumatic and complicates the grieving process and being able it you know being able to channel some of that energy to in this case to do what was so heavy pressing on Nick's heart to do something for this young adults who miss out on Make-A-Wish. I think that's just an awesome thing that you've been doing, and I resemble the part where you go, I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing here when it comes to a nonprofit, And so 10 years ago, when I started Shatter Our Silence, I had no clue what I was doing, but I'm grateful that I had, like yourself, people around me that could come in and fill in the gaps that I didn't have. But um, so so the first year that you did Nick's Wish, what year was that? Just so that I can kind of have a frame of reference.
He passed away in 2012, and that he passed away on March 9th, 2012. And we had the first fundraiser in October. We started delivering wishes in 2013.
Okay. Okay. So September of 12 to now. So we're talking uh we're coming up on 14 years, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, well,
yeah.
that is awesome. So when, okay, so just so that I have a frame of reference, because I had all these, I'm sitting, just having a beer at Pigs Might, and then all of a sudden, and this is like a couple weeks before St. Patrick's Day,
Yeah.
and then all these people dressed up like leprechauns, or at least St. Patrick's Day, come in, and then I look outside and there's this huge genie's lamp outside. So tell us a little bit about that event, and then tell us about what you guys just did a couple days ago.
Right, right, right. So that was kind of our promo up to our event, which is the Shamrock Beer 5K. That definitely would have been Nick's most favorite event. It's a lot of fun. We had about 900 people there. So coming up to the event, we do this thing called Shamrock, the lives of young adults fighting cancer. So we had over 48 bars that were kind enough to help us fundraise by asking people to donate $5 to put their name on a shamrock, and then their name went into a drawing for a pot of gold of $1,000. So we just drew for that at the event on Saturday. So someone from Stumpy's Pub actually won the. So we're gonna bring that $1,000 over to Stumpy's on Thursday, I think, and present it to the winner. But it was all in good fun. So leading up to that, and kind of a thank you to all these bars, we go on what's called a lamp crawl, which means we take our 16-foot wish lamp, smoking and lighting, and we take it to each one of those 48 bars, not in all one night. And we go in and we just, say hi to everybody, thank everybody, and just again check in online with them and talk to people about Nick's Wish and hopefully sell a few more shamrocks for them. And of course, the bar that sells the most shamrocks gets the Golden Shamrock Prize. So yeah, so it's all in good fun for us to just again bring awareness, especially in the community, especially in the local community. This is interesting, but it's sometimes it's very hard for us to make sure that the local young adults fighting cancer know about Nick's Wish. Now, you'd think if you had a 16-foot wish lamp and you're driving around all the time, they'd see it, but they don't. And so, really, we really count on people to spread the word for us because remember, they cannot be treated here. they're usually treated somewhere else, either up in Madison at Lurie's or at Lurie's Children's Hospital or Comer's Children's Hospital, somewhere where there is a children's hospital and a center of excellence for the kind of cancer that they have. So it's really, really important. We want to make sure that 100% of the kids in this area know about us and get a wish.
Okay. And so, kind of like Make a Wish, I'm assuming that the starting point where you attempt to come in and intervene is at 18. Is there a top end of that?
24, 18 to 24.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of those
Yeah.
awkward college transitional years where you're trying to, you're trying to transition and become independent.
Yep. Yeah, and very similar to we refer to the young adult, which in itself is a little on the subjective side, but it is definitely this idea of including middle school and high schoolers when we think of young adults, but clearly a middle schooler in development and a high schooler development is different than that 18 to 24, 25 years old, and so yes, with SOS, we focus on that same age group of how this age group is so vulnerable
It
just from
is.
all the different factors that are going on, let alone like in Nick's case, of what was going on within his body. That we have on one hand this spirit that he continually was demonstrating of wanting to, be playful and help other people, um, and at the same time of facing some of the things that he was facing, let alone just the treatments. I can't imagine how much energy that took from him and all that. So, um, no, I definitely appreciate Kelly, that we met that day and that we were able to, and we will definitely share this story, and share your story and share Nick's story out there. Now, just to make sure, so you have in leading up to the St. Patrick's Day weekend, when we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, that's one of your awareness fundraisers, and then you have another one in the fall. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, it's always the second Saturday in October, and it's called Nick's Home Run. So that one is, well, we don't serve 18 kegs of beer at that one. We don't serve any beer at that one. It's a little bit more of a family event, but a lot of our wish families are there. We have a memorial garden there where a lot of the families and people, we have posters up for the folks who want to pay tribute to the ones they've lost from cancer. So it's a good time for us to just take a moment and honor them and hopefully raise some money to help the other families that are still going through these battles. So, yeah.
Yes. Awesome. So if there was someone who's listening who either one knows somebody that could benefit from Nick's Wish, or would want to help out or contribute in some way, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Kelly, or someone involved with Nick's Wish?
Absolutely. Please get a hold of me. I will make sure that I will hunt that person down and make sure they get a wish, for sure. Or if you certainly want to help in any way, info@nickswish.org. It's Nick without a C, is nikswish.org.
NIKS. Okay.
Yep, nickswish.org, but no C.
All right, perfect. Well, Kelly, I very much appreciate you taking some time and being with us this morning. And if there was any last thing that you would want to share to the ones listening, what would you want to share?
It is just such a hard battle for anybody who's fighting cancer. So, lift up those prayers and keep those energies going and lean into whomever it is. It is just, it's a tough battle. So, I guess that would be the only thing I would say is, try to do whatever you can. And number one is if you do know someone, please, please, please send them our way. Whether they think they need a wish or not, they discover they do need a wish.
Well, Kelly, once again, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for continuing the mission of Nick's passion and his heart, and thank you for coming on and being vulnerable and sharing his story, sharing your story, and then sharing the legacy that he planted that seed. Just started with Nathan and Nate, and then has continued for 440 or 439 other wishes. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thanks for sharing my story.
So for anyone listening, if you were moved or you know someone that could benefit from Nick's wish, please contact Kelly with the contact information. We never know who might be struggling. A lot of times when people are in that place, they may not know where to go or may not ask out themselves. But you weren't here accidentally listening today. Please pass this message on and Kelly's story and Nick's story on. Thank you very much. As always, thank you for being here, and I look forward to being with you next week.